Business today feels focused overwhelmingly on profit over purpose. We believe the best businesses lead with purpose and service and then see profit follow. On this show, you'll hear from leaders we see as provisioners, those building systems of service that both provide for people and thrive in the market. This is Seeking Provision. Hey, welcome to Seeking Provision. I'm your host, Elias Franz. With me today is McLane Nagy of DreamThief Studio, a mending and repair studio here in Columbus, Ohio, focused on fabrics and fabric art. McLane, thanks for jumping in with us today.
Thank you.
So, McLane, the first thing we're going to talk about Dream Thief is why you do what you do. So, before we jump into some of the details of the business and all the great things you do for the community, we want to talk a little bit about why you do that.
The why is, I guess, maybe two parts. The why is because I often throughout my life have wanted, needed, or broken something that I can't afford. And so part of it is utilitarian, and it's a skill that I've built over time for myself. And then the other is because this is what I know how to do. This is how I know how to make the world better before I left it. Literally fixing things for people, and keeping as much as possible out of the trash, as well as sort of evangelizing the idea that we can fix things in a society where we're really been socially trained to not even really consider that as an option.
Where do you think that kind of desire to sustain and repair is sourced?
Uh, I have my family are farmers, and so repairing things is part of how I was raised. You fix things, you don't buy them if you can, and then you start to have a relationship with that object, and you start to understand how it's made better, whether it's a dress or a bike or whatever it is. Um, and then I also have a huge theater background, which is a very scrappy industry, especially like in Columbus, where we don't really have a union here. So if you're in props or if you're in theater, like you're constantly trying to make do with what you have, which absolutely slides right into the concept of mending. And I also make a lot of my own clothes, and I'm not giving those up if I don't have to. So everything gets fixed if I can help it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think on a couple of the my favorite fabrics. I think maybe everybody has got the pair of jeans that fit just right that
Oh yeah.
eventually rip and tear. Has that been one that you've worked on in the past?
Oh yeah. I actually fix all of my father's jeans, and every single one of them has the right knee is where the tear is, because when he's a construction worker, and so when he kneels down to do something, that's how he does it every single time. So those clothes are literally telling the story of how he lives his life. And one tear isn't enough to get my father to get rid of anything. So yeah, jeans for sure. I fix a lot of people's jeans because who wants to go shopping for those again? Once you find ones that fit, hell and high water before I have to go get another pair. So, yeah, creating more time with people's favorite things
Hmm.
is a huge part of what I do.
Sure. And tell me a little bit about the creative side. Again, maybe at least to start, a little less on the what, but more on the why. So you've got this kind of core driver for mending and repair. How does that work its way into your artwork?
Uh, my artwork, a lot of it, what I make is made from items that, like a lot of the fabric that I use, because fabric is very expensive. Anyone who sews will tell you that buying fabric new is not impossible, but certainly cost prohibitive. So a lot of I will thrift clothing and take it apart and use that for pieces for like my cloak project, for example. I'm currently working on a vulture, and the whole point of that is that I'm not allowed to buy anything for it at all. Because vultures are scavengers, and they're also one of the most important parts of our ecosystem. So,
And this is a vulture. Describe that to me. When you say a vulture, what does that look like in terms of like material and
right. So I make cloaks based on birds that, whether in mythology or theology cross the veil, and I hand cut feathers and sew them into a cloak form so it looks like you're wearing a giant bird, kind of. So for the vulture, at least, I can use any fabric I already have. If I have a stash of corduroy, I'm browns and blacks, I can use anything like that. But I'm also learning to crochet plastic like shopping bags into that shape, for example, and using honestly just as much trash as possible to sort of link to that concept, which is right next to mending. Right next to
Sure.
mending, I think.
No, that's cool. Very cool. Um, so you've got kind of this blend in your business between this kind of very creative, artistic outlet, right? And this artistic thing that you're bringing to the community, and also kind of more tactical, pragmatic service, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
let me fix your fabrics, let me fix what you're wearing, or your grandmother's favorite quilt. How do you approach the balance between those things in the business? Do you approach it with a whatever people come to me with is where I'll focus my time? Do you try and split your time a certain way between kind of the more art side and the more business side? Do you not see a difference between the two at all?
See a pretty big difference because one of them I'm creating for myself, and the other one is a service that I provide.
Hmm.
So really, the art is just I'm an artistic person, and if you can lock me in a room with nothing in there, and I'll find some way to make something. I just can't help it.
Sure.
So that's sort of I think that the Venn diagram of those things definitely overlaps because when you approach mending something, like if you have a hole, a lot of times it'll be in a stressed area, like the crotch of pants or like the armpit of a shirt, and you depending on what it's made out of, all these creative solving problems come into play. So that's probably where the biggest overlap is when it comes to like designing my art versus working on something that somebody brings me.
Are there other ways that you have approached the business that you see as very different from other, mending or sewing shops in Columbus? I mean, the big one I could think of now is that I doubt that all of them have this kind of other arm of the business that is that artistic outlet,
Mm,
or that kind of source of expression that people, even though you said it's for you, it's there for people to engage with, right? And I'm sure that there's
absolutely.
a huge set of your customers that appreciate that. Are there other ways that you see your business as different?
Well, I don't really go to alteration studios, so I'm going to probably generalize a little bit in Columbus, but typically businesses like that are maybe only service focused, where this is instead of buying a coffee, you are exchanging cash for this very specific thing. A zipper is being
Hmm.
replaced, and that's really where the relationship ends. And I think that the way I approach it is, for lack of a better term, a bit more spiritual. Like I said, like you create relationships with damage and relationships with the concept of mending. Because if you can't fix it, but you get it fixed by someone, you are automatically now seated with the idea that this is something you can apply to almost everything. And there's a sense of pride that comes with that, I think. And so what's started to happen on its own, because I am very entrenched in the art world in general, I am attracting the sort of clients who have relationships with these items or with how they make them feel. I've done a lot of clothing alterations for trans men, because clothes don't fit anybody, and clothes should fit people, not the other way around. So I don't think in general that if you were to take if you just it's the difference between having your pants hemmed, and that's where it stops, and uh, the human conversation that comes out of giving a service to someone and asking them why they need it. And I think that has more of a ripple effect with the thing that I really care about the most, which is I want as many people to either get things fixed or learn how to fix it themselves. If you could put me out of business for fixing, if it just was straight up a service that we don't even need anymore, that would be the dream.
Sure. Yeah, and yeah, what a difference you can make in people's lives with something that's kind of separated from the problem in the way that someone might typically think about it, right? You think about the clothes that you said you can mend or fit for trans men. just not a direct path in terms of bringing value to a market, in terms of making a difference in people's lives. Not a direct path that I would think most people kind of mentally travel, right? Which is, if I focus on what people wear and making them comfortable, that's really what my my customers, my market want to see. And these mending skills and this kind of desire to bring that positivity that you just talked about to your community is just something underground for that, right? It's behind all of it. What you really are accomplishing out in the world is solving these pains that are in some cases it sounds like very um, separate from how you might typically market as a mending studio or an alteration studio, right? And I think that's a really really cool component of how Dream Thief puts itself out there. Are there areas where you run into conflict in terms of what effort and uh, kind of components of your business are for the business and what is really maybe kind of for the community, maybe in how you price or where you pitch your services?
Hmm. Mending is tricky because of the fact, like, we're focusing on clothes. I fix all kinds of things,
Mm-hmm.
but clothes is a great example because of like the one-to-one monetary value that they have, right? Like grandma's quilt is something different, but we'll go with the jeans example. If you have your favorite pair of jeans, you just want them fixed. Chances are you probably paid, if you're thrifty or like me, you're probably paying no more than $45 or something like that. If I'm gonna fix the crotch of a pants that's like like you truly blew it out, or the pocket is just like destroyed, that's very likely gonna end up costing more than the original garment. So I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the biggest things I come up against is you'll tell people don't, and people don't know what they don't know, but you'll tell people, well, this is how much it costs to fix your jacket or your shirt or replace the zipper on your sweater, and they're like, well, I could just get a new one for that. And you're right, you can. Like, part of what I do is uh like part of the sell for me isn't necessarily just getting business. It's a hard sell because you have to sell the idea that fixing something is worth it because uh you don't have to go get a new one and then commit and then continue the cycle of garbage, essentially.
You have to find someone that has that desire for sustainability, whether it comes from like a
Yeah,
personal place or maybe more of a philosophic one. You've got to find the folks that have that desire to sustain instead of replace, in the first
yeah.
place, and that's got some inherent value to them and their way of thinking.
Convincing people is probably the hardest part if they really don't have any idea of what to expect. It surprises a
Mhm.
lot of people. A lot of artists run into that. And so sometimes I will also meet people where they're at. It's like, I'm gonna try and work with you where you are. If that means coming up with a payment plan, if it's a really big project, and something that like you can't afford right away, I'm absolutely open to the conversation. I do have, a floor of where I can't go past because I've done that, and then I can burn myself out on as much as I want to help. Some of this has to make me able to keep doing it. So a way that I sort of like get around that for the community service aspect is I run mending nights. I've done it for a couple different places. And I also do like personal pop-ups. For a while, I was at Cafe Kerouac here in Columbus, where if you caught me on, a Tuesday between 10 and 2, and you brought me something that I could fix in the space that it takes to drink a cup of coffee, it's free. And if people want to learn how to do something, like maybe I've sat with people and done one-on-ones where it's like, okay, I'm mostly fixing this,
Mhm.
but you're going to do some of the work too. And so that can bring the price down too, and also create more community. Because every time you touch something, you're putting yourself into it, no matter what. So everything I do has to. So people can't be carrying around my anxiety or my fear or my trepidation over the idea of running a business just because I'm worried about it.
Sure. Yeah. And in my work as well, this is a big focus. The idea that you um, can build a business that balances and doesn't over prioritize one or the other, this need to provide for people out in the world, right? That purpose side. And then we also need to thrive ourselves, right? As a business owner, we need to have this our own sustainability to continue to be here, to continue to provide what it is that we do, and that's just a constant balance that, at least in my work, I work with businesses on. But it sounds like something that is kind of constantly in your head as well, as in terms of how you operate. I would imagine that transparency in pricing, and kind of effort is really really important to that. Is that the case?
It helps too because it is. So a lot of things I do, I kind of end up using an hourly rate because it's very everything you bring me is going to be different. So like saying I fix
Yeah.
something, I fix a hole in your jeans for X amount, like that doesn't really work. So everything gets kind of assessed. An assessment is free, and then some often the hourly rate helps people contextualize like, oh yeah, a human being does have to spend time on this, and also has developed skills over years and years of practice to be able to do it in the first place, and that typically
Yeah.
helps. And when I have longer projects, like I'm fixing an Afghan for someone right now that go over like maybe take me like weeks or months. I take pictures and send them progress of what is going on with the item that they've trusted me with.
Sure. And I'm sure the work that you find that comes your way, every customer probably falls somewhere on a scale between high sentimentality, or maybe kind of high interest in the artistic side of what you do, and what Dream Thief does, or on the other side of the spectrum, maybe, hey, I just need this thing to work again, for the highest
Absolutely,
value for the cheapest
one hundred
price,
percent.
right? Are there ways that you've operated in the past that you've shifted from, so things that maybe kind of hurt this idea of balancing providing and thriving at the same time? Are there decisions you made, or kind of ways you've operated in the past that you've moved away from to make that easier?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with quantity, because so I used to just do like if you bring me one pair of pants, like maybe you just needs hemmed, that's probably 25 bucks, and then you go on your way. And that started to create like a lot of problems because then I was spending a ton more time trying to market myself because that's all I got out of one client. So that became like unsustainable for me really quickly because it means for I need, if I was trying to make rent or whatever, I have to spend a lot more time pushing myself out there and finding a lot more clients just to make up for something. So I started to offer like a bulk rate, like bring me 5 things. And I also started having like a flat, like no matter what you bring me, it starts here, just to kind of help me both, like that people aren't surprised, like no matter what it is, it will be at least this. And that
Hmm.
helped a lot. And also then it encouraged people like, oh yeah, I actually do have like a sweater, and like, oh, she can do all of that at once, and that makes it more cost effective for me than bringing it piecemeal. Perfect. And that really freed me up, and relaxed some of that for me.
Yeah, well, in Route to Reach, the framework that I coach organizations on, with Acorn Adaptive, this idea of treating the market as a stakeholder is critical, right? And I think that, to me, that's what you're describing here, is this idea that, what is immediately on the shelf, or the kind of simplest way to transact, here is my one sweater, I need it fixed, is not always the only way to operate. Even though if you were to go and build Dream Thief Studio in a bubble behind a curtain, that might be what is the kind of the clearest way to design the business on a spreadsheet, right? One sweater, it costs this much to repair, this is the profit that we make on it, and we're going to do however many of those kinds of item, over a year, over a month, and now we're predicting revenue and profit, right? That's kind of the way that the business plan typically lays out, right?
Mm.
For a business like this. But I think that what you've done, or what you've described kind of moving away from, is very resonant with treating the market as a stakeholder, right? The business doesn't have to operate entirely like the mechanical spreadsheet, right? It can be this living thing that kind of reaches out into the world and says, not only are we trying to find the theoretical version of what you want, but we're here in front of you right now, asking you what you need, and willing to change how we operate to get you what you need, right? That
Oh yeah.
adaptability in treating the market and kind of what they're asking for as part of the signals that your business takes in, I think is just critical, especially for somebody trying to achieve this balance that we've talked about, right? One of the things that I wanted to make sure we talked about, which is this idea of what we see on Seeking Provision as a provisioner, right? These people out in the world. This is why we reached out to you in the first place, as you know. But these people out in the world that are running a business that is focused first on purpose and service, and not focused on profit, but focused on profit as a follow on to that, right? Um, these people that are putting systems out in the world to continue to provide things for people, but also not willing to, completely altruistically give everything that they have so that they can't continue to provide into the future. Um, in what ways did you start this path, seeing yourself as that kind of person, right?
Hmm.
Um, and in what ways have you maybe changed along the way? Did you start as that kind of picture perfect provisioner in your mind, or did you maybe start more on the art side and come more to the business side later? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the business followed the art, I suppose, in the sense that like when Dream Thief started, my life had a whole sort of was completely uprooted and something had to change. And my partner actually is the one who pointed out like, why don't you do the thing you're already doing and just shift the perspective of how you treat it and how you look at it. And that's exactly what I did. So I was already teaching mending. I was already someone that my friends would bring stuff to. I was already very much an evangelist for that sort of way of life. So the idea that I all of a sudden had permission, like I didn't have it before, it just didn't occur to me to do that for a living and therefore actually reach
Mm-hmm.
more people, um like I have goosebumps. It's really exciting. I like it. It makes me really happy. So
Sure.
I guess like I don't know. I hesitate to say that I'm like I was a picture perfect provisioner, but like I absolutely came at this from the perspective of oh, it can be bigger. Oh, there can be more, and not like necessarily like oh, more for me, but like it doesn't have to just be a hobby, although that's like important too. But there's a way for me to expand this for myself and like the people around me.
Do you think that you've shifted over time? So to me, it sounds like you started kind of heavily on the purpose and service side, whether that purpose is encapsulated in artwork or just kind of what you can do for the community. Have you had to change at all to bring things a little bit more into the pragmatic world of business so that you can do
Oh
that
yeah.
second part as well and kind of thrive as a business?
Yeah, the learning curve is hard and sort of mean and steep. A lot of that has to do with pricing. A lot of artists start out terrible at pricing their work because a lot of times for us the process is the point, and so like with my art, I actually have gone through maybe 4 or 5 different iterations with how I price things. And the same thing has happened for the services I provide because when I do the math, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Like I can't do it like this. At some point, either it's a gift and it's free, or it has to be something that can sustain me so that I can continue to do things. I can continue to sort of offer the scholarship option. But for a long time, I was really underselling myself. Um, as far as pricing goes, and also really if like coming from a place of fear sometimes of like I could fix it for me or I could fix it for my friend, but like I don't know if I should be fixing it for other people. Like that feels like a lot of
Sure.
responsibility to take something from somebody that is a one of a kind, or it's just it's a personal item, and then say like yeah, I got this. Like considering yourself an expert is something I don't know that I'll ever be able to do, but I've definitely gained confidence since then. And part of that was realizing that when I did make those changes, um, no one blinked. No one was surprised. No one was mad at me. They're just like, yeah, that's how much this should cost. I'm like, oh, well, glad one of us knew that. I caught up.
Yeah, yeah. There's a book I read just recently. I want to say it was Building Your Story Brand, either that or Atomic Habits. Either way, the author of whichever book this was, talked about this idea of experts, and how an expert is not necessarily the most knowledgeable person on a subject. It's someone who is out in the world, in the real kind of messy world, and more knowledgeable than the others around them, or the others that they go to market for, on a subject, which I think is a really humble way to approach the world, and something that's probably benefited a lot of folks. In my old world, in my previous career in IT consulting, we had this idea of the fearless consultant, we'd call it, and it's effectively the same concept. But we would go into clients, and a lot of the kind of desire and draw as a consultant is to know absolutely everything you can about a topic. When in reality, what helps a lot of the time, what is most valuable for customers, is just to be someone that knows a little more and knows how to reference and pull threads on topics, that folks wouldn't otherwise know to themselves. Right? There's that phrase, "I don't know what I don't know." Um, these unknown unknowns is really where consultants can help by just knowing a little bit of where to go, of how to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of having that fearlessness, or that knowledge pragmatism to uh, go and figure it out on someone's behalf, or to become more of an expert in that area, when needed.
Expert also kind of sounds like the end of something, and there's no way I'll ever know any enough. Like I still seek out classes and learning and mentors because that's what gives me more information. The machines are a great example of that. We don't have very many technicians in Columbus, so it started out with me needing to fix mine, and I went and got certified. And at first, I thought like, oh, I'm going to need a month or so to really feel like I can offer this service, but that didn't end up being the case. So adding that and understanding that there's so much you don't know, I think is part of why you can keep learning and continue to add value. Because if you consider yourself an expert, it kind of just sounds like, and that's enough, and now I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the repairing, of sewing machines that Dream Thief does is such an interesting component of where the business has gone, because it's right there, and it's been right there. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know exactly at what point you made that transition, but one of the things that I coach, leaders on, that are trying to manage what they offer, and kind of build how they reach out to the market, is to stay very, very adaptive, right? We kind of talked about that collaboration, treating the market as a stakeholder earlier, but the idea that we're not just going to kind of morph what we already do, but when we see a need, we can adapt to it quickly. We can go get certified in how to repair a sewing machine, because we're out there amongst people that are coming to us because their sewing machines are broken themselves, right? And just kind of seeing these needs out in the world, and another way to provide for people, um, that adaptability, or even just the willingness to be adaptive, I think is a huge component of what makes a lot of organizations successful, and is really a limiter to growth, to the ones that aren't like that. Have you seen a dramatic shift in how you yourself market your services once you've moved into this new area, or has the kind of core message of Dream Teeth stayed the same as you've moved into machine repair, in addition to fabric repair?
I think so. I think so. I mean, in the sense that, like, if we're talking about like sort of marketing myself too, I was doing a lot of like door hanger, like door to door, like canvassing essentially, with the
Mm-hmm.
first iteration of what my business looked like, which takes up a lot of time. And it's a lot of funds that you have no idea if you're going to get a return on whatsoever. And such a kind of a huge risk for what turned out to be like almost no return at all. So now that I have this as well, which services a whole different that's a whole different type of person. People who are bringing me things to fix probably don't have a sewing machine at all. That's part of the reason they needed me to fix their jeans already. These
Mm-hmm.
people don't need me to fix their jeans, but they don't know how to fix their machine. So I am like, I'm vocabulary wise, like I'm talking to sort of two separate groups of people. And that makes my pool bigger, and it also means that I have to get a little more creative with how I find them. Although the way that it works, like I actually where I literally repair machines is where people can see me. It's a in a shop where people can literally see me, and that does a lot of
Yeah.
work for me. I don't have to try nearly as hard to get attention on that specifically. And
Yeah.
then the machines lead into, oh, and she also fixes all of these things. So this actually has completely, it's made now the main thing I do professionally, and also has like maybe doubled my reach with people just because of the visibility of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a this reminds me. There's a Renaissance fair in my hometown. That they do it in the fall every year, and it's mostly just lots of shops, lots of craftsmen and artists that set up in these little buildings. But a couple of them are kind of mainstays there, and one of them is like glass blowing. One of them
I know who
has
you're
some
talking
kind of
about.
like
I've seen
little
that guy.
forge. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this reminds me of that. Is every time you go there and basically while they're working, while they're doing what they do, they're proof pointing their own services right there in front of everyone,
Mhm.
and kind of marketing a little bit with the shock value. I was like, oh, this is a cool thing I've walked by, and I want to watch this guy do it, but also I could have one of these, I don't know, bowls or trinkets or maybe sometimes pipes. Who knows what they're getting commissioned for, but it reminds me of that same approach of kind of being there, kind of amongst the crowd, right, amongst your customer base, um, naturally proof pointing what you do, while doing it, and kind of letting that profit follow, like we talked about earlier. I think that's a really neat way to get out there. What are some other ways that, even if it's not on the sewing machine side, that you found success in kind of getting this, um, I would say, message that's it kind of divorced again from the pragmaticism of the business, which is one of the things that I find so interesting about Dream Thief is you've got this heavy focus on, what I'm doing with my hands is that's all for me. That's all about me. What I'm focused on for you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, is what you're feeling. I think this is something that you're so good at. Um, what are other ways that you reach out to that feeling, whether it's a place, whether it's uh, the types of words you use or the messaging you use? How do you jump that gap between, yeah, I'm doing all these things with my hands, or I'm using this certification to repair your machines, but what I really care about is what you're feeling, what you're missing in your life that I can cover for you.
Uh, well, one thing I think that's really important is to be in front of people, um,
Hmm.
like physically. So like where I fix machines is a big part of that. I also do art markets where I sell my art, but also the biggest reason I do that at all is it's a living business card. And my technique and my aesthetic is all around me. And so if when people are interested in that and they walk over, I've already got you in a place where the way that I set this up or the colors that I've used, like and the things that I create already make you feel something or you wouldn't have walked over. And then I can have more of the conversation and get to know someone and sort of talk about, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work to have whole conversations with people that maybe don't go anywhere at all. But to me, I'd
Hmm.
rather spend the time on that than ever just doing like the door canvassing again. The pop-ups were a good thing too when I do mending at cafes and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm doing it for free, but now you know I exist. And you didn't know that before. So while it is a
Sure.
free service that I'm providing to the community, I am still doing like everything I do is in front of people where my art and like for me the art and the work is the same thing, like is concerned. That's a business card. Everything, every conversation I have about it, that's a business card. When I wear
Yeah.
clothes of mine that I've fixed and people say is, ask me about it, that's a business card. So the human element to me is like the most important, even if it is a lot more emotional work. I guess there's a risk with that inherently too, because I've sort of committed myself to a locality in that, which I don't mind at all. But I had one person mail me a quote from California, but like I'm invested in the community I'm serving because this is where I am. If I if I hinge my like my marketability on the people that are around me, if I pick up and move somewhere, I'm gonna have to start all over. So participating in a positive way is essential.
Yeah, and I think this idea of locality is a great way to help manage the balance that we've talked about a couple times, that we want to see in the folks that we see as these provisioners, right? This idea of provide and thrive, right? Purpose and service first, profit later. I think to to help strike that balance, sometimes if your world is a little smaller, right? People see this when they go on vacation, or I think many people saw this during the pandemic, where there was people got closer together, or communities got more tight knit. Folks made more friends that are now babysitting for each other, or taking care of each other when folks are sick or whatever it is. And sometimes that comes from just making your world a little bit smaller. And I think the same is true in the business space as well. Is when you go out to the market or the world, and things like the internet and the tech world these days can make this difficult. But when you go out into the world and you say, hey, our reach, um, our market, where we want to win first, our playing field is everywhere. It's the whole planet, right? Because we can put a website out and we just hope that everybody gets to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really tough to have that connection and that collaboration that we talked about earlier with your market. It's really tough to treat the market as a stakeholder, because you yourself aren't a part of your whole market, right? And so when you can kind of zero that in and say, I'm in my community in German Village in Columbus, Ohio, right? And I know what people need here, what people struggle with here. Makes it a lot simpler to, maybe not easier, but simpler to strike that balance. What kind of kicked off? What was that seed that I've talked about for Dream Thief? Where was the place where you started small?
Like the first sort of like, oh, I could do this project basically.
Yeah, or even the first time that you actually did a project for a profit.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's actually very easy. I I had a woman contact me. She had a wedding quilt, which is they they're not really popular anymore. They were really popular in like the 70s and 60s, I think, where you would get
Hmm.
it's two big white pieces of fabric plus the quilt binding, and there's a design very very faintly printed all over one piece, the top of the quilt. And so in this sense, it's a quilt where it's not a quilt where the quilt is made by a bunch of different kinds of fabric. The quilting action of like literally following all of those lines with your needle and thread, that's what makes a design and makes it a quilt. And her mother had started it for her, and her mother was still around, and she got to see it at the end, which was amazing, but she had only gotten about 20% of the way through it. And I completely understand why. It was a king size quilt. It was crazy to manage, but I did finish it, and that was quite a significant project that made a huge difference in my life, financially, and both financially and also getting like, because it was a long time, I had developed a relationship with this woman and met her mom, and got to finish this quilt that had been around and started for decades. And then the woman I did it for, she gave it to her niece who was getting married.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I thought, oh, okay, I do know enough. I can do this. Like I do actually have like the ability, the drive, and the interest, like the continued
Yeah.
interest to create this kind of circumstance for myself, and other people again, because there really isn't. Um, there are alteration studios all over the place. I don't know of many like the houses or like shops where it's bring this random thing that your family really needs to keep hang on to. Because what I'm really selling is time. I'm selling you time with your favorite things, and whether that's a machine or a quilt. Um, but that's definitely where it started. Was with that huge quilt. It took me like probably 400 hours, I think, 400 hours or something like that to finish it.
Yeah, and the realization there is, there are people that need something that I can provide them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, how do I build a system that lets me continue to do that, right?
Right. I wasn't just a convenience. I was also like, oh, people do need me. Exactly.
So McLean, thank you so much for jumping on. I've just got one last question for you before we wrap up. Kind of more on the tactical side. Folks have heard all about Dream Thief and kind of where your purpose comes from, how you're running the business. what are some of the things that you've got going on in the future where folks, especially if they're local here in Columbus, could find you?
Absolutely. I teach several different kinds of classes through a local secondhand craft shop and studio called Craft Raccoon on the south side. I also repair machines there, and drop off and pickup are also in that space. And I'll be appearing at several different art markets throughout Columbus this summer, both the little golden hour markets and the good market series, where you can see everything else that I also do that isn't just repairing, but making things that are new. And I'm hoping to restart my mending series at Cafe Kerouac, where if you catch me, you can get that button fixed for free.
Okay, and for the folks that aren't local to Columbus, the website for DreamThief Studio.
DreamThiefStudio.com. Make sure you spell thief right. It happens a lot. And through that website, you can see more of my mission. There are videos and posts about past projects and my philosophy on damage and how we befriend it and the relationship that we create with objects in this one lifetime that both we and the object have, as well as a way to communicate with me. And just because you're not local doesn't mean I can't help you.
All right. Well, McLean, thank you so much for jumping on. It's been a pleasure to have you, and best of luck with everything you're bringing to the community with Dream Thief.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Seeking Provision is brought to you by Acorn Adaptive. We help product and service leaders shape their team's inherent value into strategic offerings. Offerings that both provide for people and thrive in the market. Learn more at acornadaptive.com.